It's going to be the first of a weekly edition of videos here. We're going to be going through each of the teams, their next 3 games, and what we can expect out of them fantasy-wise, how it's going to impact them and all their players involved. Whether it's going to be fairly attacking over the next bunch of games, whether we should expect some lower scoring and a few more bigger scores through the middles and hookers, for example, and just basically everything there. Firstly, a shout out to Ollie, who I saw getting off the train the other night just after the Cowboys snuck home. I was a little bit annoyed with the fantasy scoring in that second half, especially with Drinky, but very happy to get that win. So thanks to Ollie for saying hello. So cool when I can meet people that actually watch my videos. Still crazy to this day. So if I can meet more of you, that would be awesome. So we will kick it off with the Dragons, guys. So they obviously haven't played yet. And we're going to look at their round 2, round 3, and 4, and what we can expect from some of their players. So a few relevant type of guys. A couple of people are asking me about Jacob Little, for example. We've got Ben Murdoch-Masila. We've got Tyrell Sloan. A few different guys there that could be of interest in your side. So we're looking at how the Titans played last week. They had a nice win over the Tigers. So can we expect the Dragons to do any well against them? Look, the best thing that the Dragons have done so far is that they haven't lost yet. Should they lose in this first game? I would imagine so, guys. Coming up against the Titans, they look to be an improving side as well. There's a heap of those squads there in that sort of 8 to 14, 13 bracket that have improved, and I don't think Dragons are one of those guys. What we see each and every year, we think that they're going to go pretty poor, and then they come out now, they have a hot start and then sort of fade away at the back end, or they just seem to win a bunch of different games. And they do have a really, really great player in Benny Hunt to be able to do that. He's not fantasy relevant, guys. Just unfortunately too many missed tackles in his game. So the Dragons, a couple of different guys. If you're looking at guys like Ben Murdoch-Masila, if he gets that start on an edge, then I don't think we're going to have too much of a worry coming up against a Joe Simpson or something like that, depending on which side Ben Murdoch-Masila is going to be on. If he is on that left-hand side, which is most likely, then we should see him up against Simpson. So not a big stress on that one. Guys like Sloan, I would be worried about him, guys. We saw what Cam Pereira did. A lot of the fullbacks have sort of done okay. You've seen Hammer and Charles Cook-Star come out and have a good start. Can that happen again? The outside backs have been a little bit slow to kick things off. So that's my worry with them there. And then the Broncos and the Sharks. So 2 teams that are going to be really good as well. So the next 3 games for them should be fairly tough. And if you're having Sloan in your side or you're thinking about picking him up, I'd potentially avoid. If you have him right now, you're not trading him out, but you want to see how he goes. And hopefully you can get one good game out of those 3. Ben Murdoch-Masila, for example, I don't think it's going to make a big difference for him. Who he plays in that one. A few people thinking about Jack Bird. There's some talk that he'll play 13. If he does, then he's going to be a great scorer there. So personally, I'd be watching him first, and then you can make your decision because you're going to get him all the way to 16 there. So that's the Dragons to kick that off. I hope that's a good little breakdown of what we can expect from those players. Okay, we've got the Manly boys. So really, I haven't seen too many teams with players other than Tommy Trbojevic and also DCE. So with them having a bye in this round, this is when everyone who didn't pick those guys, especially those that picked DCE, got the jump over everyone else, especially those that captained him as well. But they have a bye this week. I wouldn't be trading any of these Manly guys out. You got a good look at them. They look like they'll be okay this year. So we're looking forward to round 3 and 4. They have the Eels and the Bunnies there. So 2 pretty tough matchups there. And if you've got those outside backs, Tommy, for example, he's going to go absolutely nuts against some of those lesser teams. But the Eels and the Rabbitohs, he could come out if Manly are playing pretty well, which looks like they are. Then he could do pretty well against them. Eels had, they played all right against the Storm, didn't come away with the win, and Bunnies looked pretty good. So, a little bit tough to that, but that's where you're at with those squads here. Panthers, okay, so very, very interesting one here because there's a few different guys that we have interest in this team. Luke Garner, for one. Would you look to trade him out? Look, with the bye in round 3, if you don't have much faith in him, then I can see why you would look to trade him out. And I'm assuming I'm going to get so many messages this week about Garner to Bryce Cartwright, for example. Look, if that allows you to get to a gun in another position, then okay. But I would suggest not doing it for the sake of just a cash grab. Because there's every chance that Garner comes out and gets 80 minutes and scores well. But if you have lost faith completely, then you probably shouldn't have started with him, to be honest with you. But that would be a fair trade. Guys like Cleary, for example, I'd expect him to have a bit of a bounce back game. Sonny Luke, do you pick him up now? I probably personally would look to leave him until we see that he plays bigger minutes. And as soon as he plays bigger minutes, even if you were able to get him at sort of like a 330, 340 clip in round 4 or 5, I think that would be okay. Obviously having a tougher game here again with the Bunnies like they had against the Broncos in round 1. I can't expect him to score a try every week. So if he's getting 30 minutes again, 25 minutes, whatever it is, 35, then can we expect anything above a 30? Not regularly, consistently there. He would have got under a 20 mark if he didn't score that try. So yeah, it's something that you should think about with someone like him. The outside backs, the Tungos, the To'os, for example, you need to at least see one more week from him. And if Panthers can improve, then you're definitely holding him through that bye, because then you get them all the way through to round 13, guys. So round 3, you can usually cover a lot of these players and then go from there. And round 4, they have the Eels. So they do have a fairly tough start, guys. But yeah, I definitely think if you started with any of these outside backs and you're holding through this next period, with a few of them being keepers for sure. Okay, move on to the Roosters next. So this is a very contentious, very interesting team at the moment, just with the fact that they had such a poor start, especially against the Dolphins, who, a new club, but they did look great. Roosters look really bad. So in this next round, you should expect a closer game against the Warriors. The Roosters have been a team that's kind of worked into the season, and can they get ready to go in round 2? Because then they have the Rabbitohs in 3. It looks like Egan Butcher has been cleared of any suspension. It looks like it'll just be a fine, which is good. We're still awaiting some news on Brandon Smith as to how he's going with his injury and stuff like that. But it might be minor and could be back next week, but don't actually know. A few people have been talking about Smithy and where he's at with that. So we'll find out more. I've made this on Monday afternoon, so it's going to be posted. You're obviously getting in the morning now with this one. So Roosters, guys, I think you can definitely hold steady with the majority of them. Egan Butcher, I wouldn't be trading out if he's there. He should be getting close to a 50 and then has some try upside as well if they can get it together a bit. And I think they will. They're obviously a great side. Teddy, for example, you're just holding on to him, especially this week. And if they're still really bad, then maybe you can look to move on someone like that if you've got the shits. And round 3 against the Bunnies, you got to buy from there. And really, you've got to buy in round 13 as well. He won't be playing anyway, so you can make that decision with Brandon Smith and these types of guys. They all deserve another week though, because they were so bad in that one on the weekend. Titans, really, really good game, that first one. Got a nice win against the Tigers. The next 3, Dragons in this one, I think you're obviously holding on to any of those outside backs, which is good. Khan Pereira, I spoke about him maybe having a tough one in that first and the third, with Tigers being an improved team. Titans won that game. Dragons, I think, is the one where he could come out and get a double, a triple, and do really well, depending on how the Dragons come out. They could come out and do what Dolphins did, which would be very frustrating, but yeah, it's what it is, unfortunately. Sometimes with these, you just don't exactly know, which, it was a bit of a guess to come out and say that the Dolphins would get beat comfortably by the Roosters, and that just didn't happen. So again, we're guessing a little bit in some of these stats there. But Storm and Cowboys, you're not really going to move on from someone like Khan Pereira anyway. And guys that you'd be looking at, Tino, for example, you got to hold steady. He's going to come good. Very, very irregularly he gets a 30, so he'll bounce back from that. Guys like Joe Stimson at that sort of awkward high 300s price, he should be pretty solid. Is his spot safe in the team? Probably not, but he did get 80 minutes. So that's pretty exciting news if you're looking at that type of player. Yeah, those 3 games, very interesting. Dragons, Storm, Cowboys. Outside backs, we're going to be worried about in that Storm and the Cowboys one. And then they do have their bye. So, you can make a decision on a few of these guys probably next week. I'd definitely hold any of them against Dragons. Sharky, so the big question mark here is just what's going to happen with Hines. Is he going to be back? Is Trindle going to be playing longer term? Because this next few games for them could be a little bit tough. Obviously, Eels in the next one, without Hines most likely, should be tough. Guys like Wilton, really, really good start. You'll take that for sure. He's got above his break even, which is great. Outside backs like Ronaldo, Ramian, these types of guys that scored a little bit lower, Katoa, for example, they need to be kept in your side. They've got Raiders and Dragons following that, and then Warriors in before their bye. So no stresses on any of those Sharks guys. They look like they're going to be a great team. Again, like we spoke about, and then even better with Hines. They actually played a solid game without him. Trindle did some great things. Moylan did his thing. I think they're going to be fine, guys. So don't stress about the Sharks there and any of their players. Tigers. So Adam Doueihi obviously had a really, really good game. Everyone is rushing to get him in your side. Look, it's probably ideal considering they've got Knights and Bulldogs the next couple of games. So if you are looking to do that, he's going to be a great pickup. But do you break up your team to get him? I don't think so. Yeah, if you've got like a Burton and you're really just unsure about him, and you can almost straight swap it, or you can downgrade one of your mid-range guys that didn't do so well, and that you think doesn't have a future of scoring well. If one of these guys you've picked at the start of round one and they still look like they're going to do really well, they just had a bit of a rough game, like Egan Butcher, for example, then they're a hold. But if there's someone that you're like, oh, their minutes look really bad, maybe it's just Stefano, they got good minutes, but scoring-wise, I thought he was going to do better than that. And then you can move on, to maybe a Stefano down to a Cartwright, or you could do something like that, for example, to be able to get up to a Dewey. But other than that, with the Tigers, there's not a lot to look at yet. Isaiah Papali'i, you probably want to wait a little bit. Blory, Talau, there's a few question marks there. But good news, if they are playing, guys, Knights and Dogs over the next couple of games. And the Storm following that. But just watch out on where those guys are at in terms of injuries and make your decisions from there. Off to the Raiders. So Dolphins, Sharks, Knights. So really, it looked like it was a better draw than it is now. And these things change week to week. That's why I want to do this series, guys, on a weekly basis, is that we have this theory of teams having softer draws, for example. Cowboys can come out and say, oh, they have a really soft draw. And then, the first couple of teams that they come up against actually play really well. Like Raiders almost beat them. Broncos are better than, potentially better than we thought. Warriors look okay. Titans look better. Then Dogs might be one of the easier ones. They got Dolphins in there, and they're actually, looking better than what they were. So that's a draw that could potentially change. So just be aware of that, guys. That's why we're doing this video. Okay, so Raiders there, Dolphins, Sharks, Knights. Guys like Fogarty, we're not worried about. They will come back, guys. This should be a pretty close game, I'd imagine, if Dolphins come out and play like they did. Guys like Hudson Young, Harley Smith-Shields, these guys you need to be holding, guys. They're not going to have a super low scoring affair in this one, you'd imagine. So attacking stats will be there, middle minutes will be there, middle stats will be there, just that back and forth. I think it'll be fine for those types of guys, Sharks and Knights. So that's the next three for Raiders. Good looking couple of games coming up. Storm there, we got the Dogs. So guys like Warbrick, I'm pretty excited on him this week. For example, Katoa, Lero, these type of guys, I think you're going to do good. Kickout was a bit of an interesting one last week. He got run over a few times. There was does he come out and absolutely dominate? And the worry is then, Katoa's on that right-hand side and they're going to have a good battle. That's a nice question there. On the other side, it's going to be interesting what happens with RFM when him moving to the middle. Does Preston come on and play big minutes? All these guys I think are definitely a watch. If you're worried about, definitely worried about Burton, obviously, but we were worried before round one. So you knew that it was going to be a little bit up and down. So we'll speak about Dogs there as well. So you've got the Storm, Tigers, Warriors. Is that worth carrying someone like Burton, or do you need to try and upgrade, for example? But Storm, guys, Munster's out. Let's find out who's going to be in that team list, and probably going to be a Wishart or something like that. They don't have Johns anymore, which is a bit frustrating, but is what it is. And is Hughesy going to have to step up a bit, Grant, to try and win this one? It'll be very interesting, that little battle between Reed and Harry Grant in that one. Okay, we're going to move on to the Knights in the next one. So with the Knights there, we've got Tigers, Dolphins, Raiders, and nothing crazy for them. Like we said, that first bunch of weeks is going to be okay. So guys like Hastings, I wouldn't be looking to move on, guys. They've got probably a little bit of a high scoring game in this one against the Tigs, probably similar in Dolphins, and then a solid game against Raiders. So Ponga I'd be holding for sure. Other guys in that squad, obviously Miller, I think needs to get into majority of people's sides with that wing fullback position being tough. Guys like Adam Elliott, I think we need to watch on him this week. Potentially he could drop some cash and we can look to pick him up at some point. The Saifidi brothers, Daniel there, again, a slight worry. Frizzell, you'd want to hope for a little bounce back game from him after his head injury, for those that picked him up. So that's that. Dolphins, we got the Raiders, Knights, Broncos. Again, looking at, are they going to be able to do this each and every week? That's going to be the question for guys like Hammer, for guys like Jeremy Marshall-King, Sean O'Sullivan, Mark Nichols. These are the type of big scorers in that first game. Can they back it up against Raiders, Knights? For sure. Every chance that Nichols going to get that good minutes again. I wouldn't be looking to pick him up, guys. A lot of these stats were pretty inflated. A lot of errors from the Roosters part, and that allowed plenty of attacking stats and plenty of time in possession for these Dolphins guys. And they were able to run riot, really. They had so much momentum. and we're able to keep going. So I think just a little bit of a caution on Dolphins guys. You know, even Tommy Gilbert still got 45 in 50 minutes, for example. Yeah, just all a bit of a watch for those players there. Warriors, Roosters, Cowboys, Dogs. Look, doesn't sound too bad anymore. Yeah, you look at Roosters and you go, oh, maybe that was a real danger game that round 2. But guys like Chance, I think, can come out and do a good job. You know, Hammer came out and did the same. Their middles in Tohu Harris are obviously a great pickup. And Tamati Martin might be able to come out and do solidly. He's up against Sammy Walker on that side. But I wouldn't be too stressed about the Warriors guys anymore. And then the Cowboys, they look pretty solid, but then pretty poor in the second half. So there's that. And then the Dogs, there's a pretty nice game for them. So yeah, I think Warriors fans, and guys with Warriors players in their teams, I think they're going to be fine over the next few weeks. So that's that. Dogs, we got the Storm, Tigers, Warriors. As I said, a little bit worried about, those first 2 games especially. Warriors one, they should have a tight tussle. But yeah, if you got a few of these Dogs guys, Alamotis and stuff like that, this Storm game, if you can avoid it, try not to play Alamotti, I don't think. But if you have to play him, just deal with it. Try and hopefully you should be able to get better than 17. They couldn't really play any worse than last week. But the other guys in that team, Preston and stuff, just hold steady. And they're too cheap anyway to do anything different. Okay, the Eels. So we've got the Sharks, Seagulls, and the Panthers. So that's a pretty tough kind of 3-game stretch for them. So middle forwards, edge forwards, we're not worried about it at all. You saw what happened in that first game against the Storm when it was low scoring. That the Cartwrights, the Duries, Paulo there, all those types of guys did really, really well. So really, it's just, as we spoke about with Moses and stuff, it's trying to get through that first 6 weeks, and then it kind of opens up a little bit, that draw. So middle forwards, as I said, those type of guys, hooker, not an issue with the Eels in this first one, because they continue to look for those types of guys and hold the other guys there. Do you chase someone like Cartwright? We'll talk about that in the scoop video with the buy. Risk it. Do you risk it? That's the question mark there. The hold and also the sell. Cowboys, yeah, we spoke about them a little bit. Broncos, Warriors, Titans. So not worried about any of their outside backs, for example. Broncos are going to be a tight tussle. You're looking at Drinky to sort of get involved a fair bit. Holmesy's going to have to do plenty as well to try and win this game. Pretty much like that in the Raiders one, but hopefully they don't play as bad in the second half, and it's a little bit more of a balanced 2 halves for sure with the Cowboys. And the last 2 guys there, we got the Broncos. So they're the Cowboys, Dragons, and the Dolphins. You look for, again, outside backs, not really an issue in that 3-game stretch. You got the Dragons coming up. Cowboys will be a fun one for them. Really keen to see how close this is going to be. We spoke about after that first round game there against the Broncos, that just showed that that trial between the Cows and the Broncos was actually pretty close to a full strength one, and showed that these are 2 teams that are going to be pretty good this year. So yeah, Broncos, not stressed about any of their players. Get guys like Carrigan and stuff, get them in. They'll be able to get potentially some attacking stats over the next few weeks as well. And lastly, the Rabbitohs, guys like the Panthers, Roosters, and Seagulls. It's still a pretty tough clash. What we're looking for here, guys, is base stat guys that can get tackle breaks and random offloads there. And if they get lucky with some attacking stats, then great. Guys I'm talking about here include Thompson, include Tass, who both came out. Tass, for example, did a really good job. Just tackled his way, got 170 meters, did great work there base stats wise. And if they get any extra, like Campbell Graham was the recipient of some good attacking stats last week, then awesome. Thompson might happen to him this week. So yeah, either of those guys is going to be good. Lockie Ellis, for example, another one that you could potentially look at. But again, don't break up your team just to get him, because he's most likely going to hit like a 40 average, like we spoke about. Maybe a little bit higher than my 37 projection, the 7 points of value. But yeah, really just the name of this, guys, is just to work out what type of guys you'd be looking to hold, having a look at where their buy is on this sheet, and where we can make our decisions from there. So I really hope that helps you guys each and every week, decide the types of players you're looking to hold, you're looking to trade, and hopefully you can score really well each and every week with those buys in mind, especially coming as we get closer to around 6, 7, 8, when we're looking towards that Origin buy period. Good luck this week, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.